Bitachon Parshas Va'era Tovshin Pei Gimel. We're discussing the last few weeks the beginning of Perek Daled of Chovis Alvovis Shar Bitachon, where the Chovis Alvovis explains, slowly goes into that in all areas of life where a person is supposed to be trusting in the Rebbeinu Shalom, they have to, at the same time, make sure they don't fly off to the sky. It means get their feet off the ground and they don't do Ishtadlus, the regular system. A person that wants to really be Mekayim Bitachon the way they're supposed to is at the same time they're supposed to be remembering how to think and all that, but make sure that they're doing it right with the Seder Oila. Means they go to doctors, they mishtadel parnasa, they buy food, they prepare the food, they eat the food, and it's very important to understand how this works together. Many people, when they're oisik and trusting in the Rebbeinu Shalom, all thoughts of bitachon, they don't understand. So, if I believe the Rebbeinu Shalom is bringing me my parnasa, so why do I have to get down on my knees and go to work and be involved with all that? Why is that needed? And we started learning a few weeks that it's a part of it. It's like the last part of bitachon, that a person has to be doing the physical asiya in this world, but they should be doing it right. So now let's try to develop the idea from a different angle. It's interesting if a person observes themselves or others, they would right away realize that the hardest part when you want to do something is to actually do it. It's interesting. It means when a person has a fascinating idea, that's the most exciting part. To daydream about it, and to talk about it, and to get very emotionally involved. But then, when you got to do it, that's already not so geschmack. It's interesting. Before we get into why it is like that, but that's how it is. First, we have to acknowledge it and be maskim that it is like that. You could see it in so many areas. Give an example. Writing a sefer. No, people have ideas in their mind, and it's fascinating, and the mind is like racing. But then to get down there and get busy with the writing and editing and erasing, back and forth and going to the printer, it has much less geschmack. It's a fact. It's the nitty gritty, like we call it, when you get into that. When you're talking about a ma'aseh mitzvah, to do a mitzvah, it's the same thing. People have a lot of emotion to help others, and to talk about the Rebbeinu Shalom does chesed with the aniyim and this and that, or giving tzedakah and whatever it is. But then when you actually have to do it, to put your hands in your pocket, or put your, how do they say, he put his whatever where his mouth is. Put your money with your mouth. It's hard. That's hard to actually go and execute. That's how it is. I'll say another example or two to see it in different areas, and then let's try to understand it better why it is like that. When you're talking about asking forgiveness, there's like a shtickle friction in a fight, and a person is be'emes moichel the other, and they feel bad that they did what they did, they spoke what they didn't mean it, and they wish they could tell the other party or whatever it is, I be'emes have nothing against you. It was a minute of not thinking. I was tired, and I said what I wasn't supposed to. But I be'emes, I enjoy you and I respect you. They be'emes hold like that. Okay, now tell it to him. Okay, met him tomorrow. Blina, that tomorrow I'm gonna see if I meet him at mincha. It's very hard, and it comes from the same place.
Even taking a trip, person excited about traveling.
Yeah. The most exciting part of the vacation is thinking about it and planning it, and the itinerary. But once you gotta go down there, and it's the middle of the night, you forgot the flight is at 5 a.m, and you gotta go to the airport at 2. It's not even half of it exciting. You're be'emes tired. All of a sudden you meet all these little parts you didn't think it's a cheshbon, and it's the money.
Saves a lot of money.
It saves money. the having savlonis, it's beautiful to talk about it. But then when someone rubs you the wrong way, when you're in a rush, it's very, very hard to be Mekayim. Now, it all has a common denominator. That means it all comes together. And the concept is like this. When someone has an idea, then it's still in a ruchniisdige form, the concept. Now, if you want to bring ruchniisdige concepts into the gashmiisdige world, you're trying to change the system of this world. You're like trying to get into the DNA of the Olam HaGashmi and change it. It's very, very hard. When a person is in this world, the guf pulls to laziness. Everybody, all of us. The guf is pulling down the person. It's like, if we would call it the gravity, it's pulling down the person. His mind it was given the opportunity. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave the mind it could be a keli, it could be a tool to connect to concepts that are not limited to this Olam HaGashmi. He could think about Paris. He could have pictures in his mind from Hawaii, Honolulu, all over the place. But then, the reason why it's not a problem for the person to think about all these things and talk about it is because as long as it's in the mind and in the mouth, all the limitations of the Olam HaGashmi doesn't limit him. It doesn't limit at all. So I don't have to go and travel 14 hours or be jet lagged or whatever. I could just be there without going through the hardship of the Olam HaGashmi. But once I want to take that concept and I want to, in the Gashmi is the world I want to get there. Oh, in this world, to get there, you can't just be there. You got to go through the whole path in order to get there. And the same is with people. And it's not only when a person wants to travel. Now, it's trying to break through. That means a person that wants to build something, he wants to build down another floor. So thinking about it, it's beautiful. But when the tractor comes and you have to break through, it's going to be whatever it is. It's the noise, it's the mess, it's the money that it costs, it's the physical hardship. That's what it means to break through. Anything that we want to do in Olam Hazeh, to actually do it physically, you got to break through something. The concept is there, the Mashiach to it is there. You want to be a good person. You're enjoying the rayonis of Torah and everything. But then, if you want to apply it. So you want to take those concepts, and you want to, in the physical world, bring it out lamaisa. It's like working with a hammer. It's like taking a guf and being meshabed the guf, forcing the guf to act different that it wants. It means you're killing the hergel that there was, and you're trying to switch it around. That's taking Olam Hazeh and turning it into Olam Haba. It's not geschmack. When you were thinking about Olam Haba, you were here, and Olam Haba was there. But when you have to apply it, then you have to do it Olam Hazeh, and you have to do it, and you have to change the DNA of the Olam Hazeh and work here Olam Haba. It gets very hard. It's hard. That's why it's so hard to get used to habits. Changing habits is one of the hardest things that a person has to change it.
There's no limitation in the world of Ratzin as well.
No. In Ratzin there's no limitations at all. But here you're very, very limited, and you're working with all these limitations. You're trying to break walls. When people dig in, the way it works is that the first foot or two, whatever, the beginning, it goes easy. But then you hit that, they go rock bottom. That's why it's called like that. You hit Sela in Eretz Yisrael. They call it, okay, it's going easy. The Arab tells him, I think in 3 days I'm done. And then, after the first day, it's like the second half of the second day, he says, okay, it's slowing down. Because now, you're working against stone and bedrock. That's hard. When a person is trying to take a concept and act upon it. That means they should actually they should do it. They shouldn't be talking about it. They shouldn't be saying over a word by the parsha. They should just do it. No, I'll see tomorrow. I'll think it over. That's the hardest part, but that's the main part. I don't know if I should call it the good news or the bad news, but that's the Tachas Abriya. Tachas Abriya was that a person should take those concepts and he must bring it into the essence of him, and be doing in the physical world things totally different, al-pi what he learned in the Sefer, constantly changing what the Guf is telling him to do, acting differently because I understand now how to do it, but do it. Now, don't see, when the person is doing, most people, let's explain a little bit better, they have two parts to themselves. We call it two-facer, but it's not be'emes. That means when I'm learning. When I close the Gemara, now I'm doing the other half. The concept was the exact opposite. That means you should try to take all that information, and that should change your Olam HaMaaseh. Now, let's continue on this mahalach a little bit weiter. When the Chazal say Godel Talmud Hamevi Lidei Maaseh, why is learning so important? Because learning is something that brings you to do the right thing. It's a very interesting Maimar Chazal. It's like it contradicts each other within the same three words. Why is learning so amazing? Because learning is going to bring you Lidei Maaseh. So Maaseh is more important. So I don't understand. So is learning more important or doing mitzvahs more important? I don't chap. So it goes like, and this is something that people have to have clarity. Because if you don't have full clarity in this, then you're mixed up a kaponim. Chazal are saying that ultimately, if a person becomes a different person, they act differently, they feel differently, the whole essence changed to be a Torah person, the way they reply when someone chapid them, when someone insults them, the way their whole everything, they act totally different. Al pi the Torah, that's the ultimate goal. Now, Chazal say an interesting thing. One might think that if you just start practicing like that, that's going to change the way you act. Zogan Chazal, no, because there's nothing that could reach that deep part of the mind which could change the minds of a person like Talmud. Nothing is going to do a better job to make you be a better person be'emes than learning. But of course it doesn't mean any type of learning just because quote unquote I'm a learner. Of course not. Because Torah Shaloi Lishma won't do the job. And in simple language, if your goal of learning is that it should change you, then it could, then it has the opportunity, then it has the yicholis, then it could change you. But if you're learning because you want to learn, and then I want to do something else, then it won't happen. But let's say a person is going to understand something thoroughly, and he's investing time and energy to seek the truth. That's what Torah is. A person says, forget about me. I'm asking him to do anything, to change my whole hisnagas and everything. I'm seeking the truth. What's the truth? When a person is looking for the truth so deeply and so badly, and he's asking him to do the hardest things to find that truth, when he gets it, when it clicks, then there's nothing more powerful than that to change him, to make him a different type of a person. One of the people of the last generation that we could think about when we try to understand this concept is Rabbi Zohar. That means in that stage in his life, when he started looking for the truth and he started asking people and learning, he wanted to get to the bottom of it. what happened? It's not only that he became a Baal Tshuva. It's so much deeper than that. Okay, he became a Baal Tshuva. His whole personality changed. He was a very tough person. He was all kinds of different types of tchunas and nefesh. He became so soft. He became so edel. The Torah does that to a person. That means if a person, many times by Balei Tshuva, you could find that they're looking for the truth so deep, so truthfully. It's not like mitzvahs anoshim ulumoda. We all need to learn like that. There's no doubt. That means the person is like thirsty to find out. I have to know the truth about how things work, not because of a piece of information. It's just because of like maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm living my life. I'm wasting it. I'm looking to find out the truth. That rewires the person, and if a person gets rewired, then they change the whole Litznagos. So now Chazal are saying like this: ultimately, Maisa is the most important, but Godel Talmud, which may be the Maisa, there's no way you're getting to where you're supposed to get without really learning, because the learning has the strongest koyach by far to do that to the person. That's the Yesod. Let's understand it at another level, because some people might like say, "Oh, I always thought learning is the highest madrega." You're touching the Yesod Hadassi. What are you doing? So let's look at it from a different angle, so it won't be so mechudish b'chlal. When a person is learning, what they're doing is they're leaving this world for just a little bit. Like a person that owns a store and writes there's a little sign on the door, Tekef Ashuv. Like it's a little sign, I'm going to be back soon. We leave this complicated world and we dive in, we enter a different world, the world of Elikus and Torah and Rebbeinu Shalom, and fascinating. When a person elevates themselves, they take the elevator and they go to 6. They go flying, let's say better, 6 is a small little building, yeah? Empire State Building. Still standing, right? They put it number 80. They go flying up. And maybe we could even use the sky right as a hemshech from this marshal. And they enter the world of Torah. What happens to the person? The person becomes so derhoimo, so halik, so elevated. It does a major job on the person. And there's nothing like it. There is nothing like learning Torah. You could feel it after a person learns, and he learns, doesn't speak out in the middle, learns Bertzifus and whatever. He doesn't like it. Now, the question is, okay, we close the Gemara. What's the plan that a person should constantly get up there? In a certain sense, again, I got to watch what we're saying, so people shouldn't understand it wrong. People shouldn't. But the concept is a little bit. I'm using this terminology because it's important, but I mean what's behind it. A little bit when a person's learning Torah, they're living in denial. It means that it's an escape.
Shouldn't Almanas Lasses fix that?
Sure. We must learn all day. Let's understand not to do a mistake. That means when he's learning Torah, he's escaping from the problems of this world, and he has a getaway that he doesn't have to deal with all the issues of this world, which is fascinating. The women are jealous of the men, 100%, many times, because they have to deal 24 hours with the issues of this world, and the men, I'm fine, I'm going to learn. Hello, where you going? There's kids to put to sleep, there's issues, there's financial. I'm going to learn. He closes his phone, he's out. He's out. I don't want to say he's out for lunch. He's out, he's learning. So it's easier. You should excuse me, it's much easier in a way. That's the truth. Someone that enjoys learning, What do you mean? The wives are in certain situations working much harder. Now, so let's understand this. So what's going on here? The Rebbeinu Shalom wanted us to learn. There's no doubt about it, and he wanted us to be able to escape into that world, but not because there's time out. It's because that gives the koyach to the person that when he comes back to this world, he should have now the koyches anefesh, koyches amoyach, koyches, everything changed, and now he could deal with what's going on. That was the concept. So it's two different angles. What's a higher madrega? While you're learning, of course you're on a higher matziv. It's dveikus with the Rebbeinu Shalom. While the person is davening, they're elevated. But now the concept is you're supposed to be davening and learning, knowing that this is supposed to shed light. This is supposed to enlighten the whole Gashmi's world. And that's why the Rebbeinu Shalom let me escape, because he told me you should do this, and it goes further than that. There's no way to succeed in this Gashmi's world if you don't have Torah, especially men. Men with their bigger Yetzaharas, which brings you to more opportunities in Kedusha, more opportunities in connection to the Rebbeinu Shalom. But there's no way you're going to be successful. Barosi Yetzahara, Barosi Torah Tavlin. But after you learn the Torah, it was supposed to work. If it didn't work, I should be learning more. But learning with the idea, with the goal that I want to get to, that I should be able to be an Erlich Yid even when I close the Gemara. I should be able to slowly rewire my brain. I should look different. I should be interested in different things. I shouldn't be interested in things I shouldn't supposed to. Slowly, it doesn't work at one time at all. But he sees, if you look, he sees patterns. Oh, Baruch Hashem, something is already better, softer. That's what's supposed to happen.
So Isaac Sher said, you don't go to yeshiva to run away from life. You go to yeshiva to learn how to live.
Beautiful. And Isaac Sher, you don't go to yeshiva to run away from life. You go to yeshiva to learn how to live. This is the mamash. The people are mistaking that, and here is where we're getting back to this yisoid. But maybe beforehand, the same musik of Godel Talmud HaMever Dei Maisa, there's a famous word which is printed in the Sefer Moranayim. We mentioned it here, that he says, if someone that learns the sugya of Hamachlef Porah B'Chamor is connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom, someone that's actually doing it is definitely connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That means he's selling, he's buying, and it sounds funny, like when you're learning, but now you're in the street and you're selling. The answer is, if you could try to be as elevated as you were while you're learning, while you're actually doing it, then you're even in a higher madrega that you could be in this Olam Hazeh and stay ehrlich and remembering the Rebbeinu Shalom and acting out what you learned. Back to our topic of Bitachon. Now let's understand how this applies when we learn Bitachon. A person learns Bitachon. While they're learning it, like let's say we're sitting here, everything is Basher, the Rebbeinu Shalom is only Toiv. There's nothing that's not Toiv. That's until we finish the session. But once the session is closed, and we all go back to our daily life, it doesn't even have to take 10 minutes, and there's a frustrating phone call that comes in, and how does the person react to that phone call? So that's what we call Maisa. So how does that work? I just learned something. It didn't work. I don't know. I guess I'm not there yet. Oh, it was so important. You know why the Rebbeinu Shalom sent that phone call? Because he wanted to teach you something. That by just talking about it, you're not there. That's something a person's supposed to chap. What do you mean I learned Chavis Avavas? I know Chavis Avavas. Okay. I heard. Then we send him a surprise phone call. Or someone that his tea spills, his coffee. And all these frustrating minor or major things. And then if a person is like observing themselves, they see, so 1 second, so what's the pshat? So why taka? What's the reason? Why am I not? Why is it so complicated? Didn't I just say that everything is toiv? Why Isn't it supposed to be much more geschmack to believe that everything is toiv? Why am I eating myself up? So what does the person answer? The person says, listen, the answer is because all that learning and thinking and preaching and all that was step number one. And now the bigger avoid is to let's see how I could try to apply it when it's real life. Not in the training, real war zone, real people, real whatever, and I should bring it into the Mamaise. That's where it's not fun, like we started off the shir. It's totally not fun then. It's breaking through, it's digging in, it's changing mahalchim of thinking and feeling and fighting with yourself. I am upset at him, I'm not upset at him. It was all bashed, but he's meshuga. You back and forth. Listen, it's totally bashed, but he's not normal. We fight. Oh, that fight is what the Rebbe wants. Okay, fight. Go through it. If a person doesn't go through that mahalach, then it's like a pilot that stayed in training all his life. He really trained, but he never had a hands-on. It's a doctor that spent 30 years in college. Beautiful. And what happened? That's what happened. If you don't have hands-on, then it means you never really, it didn't become you. It was ideas that were beautiful. Now, what's interesting about it is, this is where we can find it so clear like a day. People love reading about Bitachon. Look at all these pamphlets that come out on Shabbos and stories and Hashgacha Pratis. People love reading about Bitachon. Now, flip, doing Bitachon, no. That's very complicated. Someone was doing business with you and he ripped you off for $100,000. Why isn't it as amazing as reading that now on Shabbos? Why? I'm asking about the feeling. I'm not asking about if he did it or if he didn't do it. When you're reading about it, it's fascinating. When you want to do it, it's horribly hard. Terrible. Could you explain it to me? Isn't it something that's so sweet? There's a lot of topics that we don't like to read about. Why the contrast so big? You know the answer? The answer is very simple. When you learned about it and read about it, you escaped from this world and you took an elevator up. Wow, everything's good and everything is amazing and the Rebbeinu Shalom, it's amazing. And there's nothing better than that because down here ain't much fun. There's a lot going on. So I have a better idea. That's what a lot of people do. The airlines make a lot of business from that. Escape. He's not around. He went to the Mekoyim HaKadoshim, he has a bar mitzvah. He can't face the reality. The reality is tough. But that's when you read about Bitachon, you're running away. But when you have to do Bitachon, is the exact opposite. It means you have to deal with it, and someone is screaming in the face, and it's like really horrible, and you have to like stay there, look the person in the eye, and take those concepts and not run away with it. B'chlal not. Try to apply it here and change the system. It's like a person that's working in a system of a yeshiva trying to change the system of a yeshiva. You ever try doing that? No, geschmack is to do. It's not very, very machazik to try to do that. After 2 years, most people give up. That's what it is. You're trying to change the system when you're in the system and there's no one to talk to. There's no one to talk to. The system of this world is the exact opposite. You're going against the tide. It's very hard. It's not. It's geschmack. It's not sweet. Zog the Chovos Halevovos that if we would say you should be in this world and learn Bitachon and trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom, fascinating. That's good. Everybody's asking him to do that and think that everything is toiv. That's amazing. But we didn't really. That's not what you're supposed to get to. Because the whole concept of Torah is like you quoted from Rabbi Isaac Sher. It wasn't meant that you should escape. It's very geschmack to escape. It's more like batam than it's the hoiben. You feel like whatever. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was to be able to learn how to live. So now, the Rebbeinu Shalom said, that's why I set up the world, that if a person is not going to put the food into their mouth, they're going to die. Why? The Rebbeinu Shalom could have made that a person has bitachon. And he doesn't have to take the fork, he doesn't have to chew, he just lives from it. No, because then every person would just run and nothing would happen to the person, to the Mitzvah. There was a whole reason why the Rebbeinu Shalom brought the Torah to the world. The person is supposed to get, ultimately the person is supposed to get to become part of the Torah. The Torah also becomes yours. How does the Torah become yours? If a person was given a goof and the whole system, and he changed it, he took out they call it today when you take a house and the whole inside you take out, it has a word.
Remodel.
Right. You
Got it.
you got her
You got it.
got it.
You
Take all
the
the
guts
kishkas.
out.
Take out the whole kishkas and put in the whole thing brand new, everything. You rip out the electricity, do whatever, and from the outside, it stays the same, but inside, everything it ripped out. That was the concept. A person came down to this world. Now, it's hard. It's very hard. Very, very hard. So, what most people stop is by that point. That means, whatever I am, but what do? I take chizik from Bitachon. I think about it, it eases, it's like, it's therapy. It's therapy, how to think about myself. It's not nothing, it's called learning Torah. Here's the knetch. It's called learning Torah when you were learning Bitachon until now. But learning Torah is not enough. If the Rebbeinu would tell you that's enough, then it wouldn't be part of you, it would just be you escaping to that. The Torah is there, you're here, and you many times run to that place until you get recharged and then you come back to your world. So in Olam Haba, the person wouldn't have it. He wouldn't have it in Olam Haba because it didn't become his. He was always asking his friend if he could use his apartment for Shabbos, and then he came back to his place. So the Rebbeinu Shalom said, listen, there's two parts. One part is learning Torah, or let's call it learning Bitachon. That's amazing, because if you're going to learn it properly, you have no idea what it's going to do to you. Of course you should do that. But here's next level. Next level is, I want you to start seeing if you're actually applying the concepts of it, and that's when it's yours. Only then it's yours. You've been in college. Are you ready to fly the plane the first time? We'll sit in the other seat, but you actually do it. Are you ready to operate a patient? And then the Rebbeinu Shalom throws board games. It throws you situations. And those situations, if you feel like you're fighting, good sign. Fascinating sign, that's good. That's good. It means you're knocking on something. It means you're working through that gashmias. If you feel it's tough, it's not supposed to be like when you were learning. When you were learning, you were in a different world. But in the actual being mekayim, being that you're trying to change the essence of yourself, it's supposed to be a tough fight. But you must go through that shlav. And that's supposed to happen when a person comes home at night and he's after a full day of work, and now he doesn't have those fascinating he doesn't have the savlonas, he doesn't have the interest in being this shining man and smiling and everything is good and I'll help with the children and everything is so rosy. No, he's like not interested now. But one second, the Rebbeinu Shalom set me up like that. That's called Maisa. Maisa doesn't mean financially. Maisa means now believe that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants you to act a certain way now. Maisa means that he's a koiling man, but then he's planning to stay there in Baruch Hashem. So at night he's a broker, and sometimes it's big stuff. Sometimes it's also ben asdorim, and then he got tangled in to a parsha. That's called Maisa. That's called Maisa. Stop, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. You know what you should tell yourself? You should tell yourself, it's an opportunity. Baruch Hashem, the opportunity came. It's a gewaldig opportunity. Why? Because I'm learning and I want to be able to do Maisa. So, instead of now conking out, people get lost because it's very scary a lot of times and people have no idea instead of that, what they should be doing is saying, I was learning all the time. I was supposed to change the way I act. Now, the Rebbe Shem feels that I'm ready. If I wouldn't be ready, he wouldn't give it to me. So let me try to say Kapitach Tilim, I should do it right, and let me try to ask my Rebbe how to do it right, and maybe I should sleep it over before I call the other person. Maybe I should send somebody else because I don't want to do it wrong. I'm not saying you're going to get 100, but if you chapt, that's already a gewaldige step in the right direction. In all areas of life, there's no way to escape be'emes. There isn't any way to escape. People that they think, like you said, that they're using Torah to escape, they can't escape all the time. It's going to come to them. I think we mentioned in the previous year, they're going to have to do shidduchim with their children. They're going to have to handle with mukhatanim, also the interesting types. It's always going to come to you. It will come to you, and you're going to have to handle those situations. People think that it's two separate Sachen. Now I'm learning. Now, even if I act and all those weird matzavim right, they would call it like the guy has the fifth sense. He knows how to. It's how to handle. But it's a mistake. It's of course better than doing it wrong, much better. But it's a lost opportunity. It's a lost opportunity because the Rebbeinu Shalom didn't give us complicated matzavim so we could be smart. It's called Maise.
So this concept that if I sit in a room and I listen to Bitachon sharing day and night, and I reach this high level, people think, so then I can escape those things. I'll get money for my kids, whatever I need. It'll come to me.
Big mistake. Big mistake, but let's elaborate because it's a very common mistake. I didn't even mention it, but it's so important what you're saying. If we're talking about escaping.
Ironically, people think that is the Bitachon.
Right.
On the same Daven more go to Mekam Sekadesha. That's the Bitachon.
Yes, and this is what's amazing. When people start learning Bitachon, they meet the Mamor Chazal, and especially the pamphlets that say it, and that if you learn Bitachon, Abiter B'Shem Chesed Sevevenu, and you're going to escape the problems of life, because it's not going to come to you because you're so holy and you're learning Bitachon. Because you're going to have a different anhoga, and it's going to be totally different. But all that is true, but it's the people have a misconception what that means. It says clearly this one, Hashem Tzilcha, the way, it was in previous Parasha Shmois, the Shem Eke. So it says twice, I will be with you like you act with me. And they're showing him, the Medrash says it on that. The Medrash. It's not Chsidish Svarim. The Medrash said, the Rebbeinu Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, if you smile and you trust in me, then that's the anhoga you're going to get. If you're going to do that, you're going to get a different anhoga. But what does that mean? That means when a person applies already that anhoga, that's after the person is already acting Bitachon, doing Bitachon, then you will have things happening totally different. But when a person didn't have a real test in Bitachon, it's only that the person is learning about it, then the person is not yet there, because the Vayla is only escaping this matzav. Now, it gets complicated, but it's not complicated. I mean, say you have to explain it. When a person has a reason to be bepachat, a real reason to be in pachat, FBI is after him, okay? Anything. Bad diagnosis. Perfect. Reasons to be in pachat. And now they learn Bitachon, and they learn true Bitachon. Means what they're learning right now is, I'm in the Rebbeinu Shalom's hands. I'm in the Rebbeinu Shalom's hands. The Rebbeinu Shalom knows what's best for me. There's nothing I should be. Sometimes something a person is supposed to be doing, but I'm saying there's nothing. All this pachad is atzas hayetze, and they try to wire into the brain till the matzliach to learn and to daven. When they're actually hands-on in such a matziv, then the learning Bitachon is called Maise. Very important to stress that. That means right now they have a real case. They're not reading now something about a beautiful story. They're in the pachad. They have now the nisoyan. It's not different than when a person has a nisoyan to steal, and they're learning and they don't steal. There's a mitzvah not to be bepachad. Lo yisira. By we're going melchama and Rabbi Yehuda, they learned that one of the mekoros for bitachon is on that pasuk. So if you're going to melchama and you're saying, what does the Torah tell me to do? Not to be in pachad? Okay, I'm going to apply. How? By working on myself, by saying kapitlach and tehillim, which bring me to remember what I'm supposed to remember every day, by davening, by the psukkah, the zimra, I think about the Torah from the Rebbeinu Shalom, and I'm working on myself. That's called mais. But when a person is not in a real case and they're just reading about it and it sounds amazing, that's called learning. It's also not. It's not called nothing. That's that now you're learning. That's Torah. Now this concept, it says from Tzaddikim. I tried to verify before the shir. I'm still going to try to get a hold of it, but it says clear from Tzaddikim this specific exactly what we just said. The Frankfurter said this musig, that learning is the Stolner Rebbe, they call him the Yenuka. His tzien, he was nifta in Frankfurt in Germany, so they call him the Frankfurter. That sometimes learning is learning and sometimes learning is maisa. Clearly, that means when it's the same concept that when a boy hears how important it is to learn our Tzifus, and he doesn't talk about that Shoyavim, it's an important thing. He gets up and he goes to Chavrusa and he actually learns an hour. That's what we call Maise. That means you did it. Learning when you understand the concept what you're supposed to do, but you right now don't have the mitzvahs of going to do it. That's what we call learning. But then when you're told to do something a certain way and you do it that way, that's called mais.
So a person who's growing in bitachon shouldn't expect to not have.
Of course. So a person is growing. We're all growing in bitachon. Chas v'sholem, that a person should expect right away that everything's just going to be mamish like a tzaddik hador, nothing's going to happen to him. Of course that's not true. Adirabba, the situations that come up and the person handles them right, that is the step. Now you're climbing the ladder of bitachon to reach the level that many situations won't get to you at all, and you won't even know. And sometimes you will know. You will say, "Wow, that was close." The Rebbeinu Shem just totally, and people see it all the time. And not only that, this is a fascinating explanation to something we have learned many times, and we have to know it again and again. People get a certain nisoyin in their life, a hard one, a tough one. That nisoyin is not unplanned to leave. The plan is that should stay there. Tefillah, whatever, no, it's supposed to, that nisoyin is supposed to stay. But if they will know how to embrace the matziv and take that as the tool to connect to the Rebbeinu Shalom, then watch it. Around that, so many things have a special bracha, not stam. You could see there has an amazing bracha all around, and that's where you see both parts of the picture. The big nisoyin that came to the person gave the person an opportunity to embrace the matziv and work with it and become a real Baal Bitachon, because look how they're handling it. And it's not easy, and it's a fight, but they're fighting that fight.
And the matzah's still there.
The matzah is still there, and it never leaves many times, most times. It's there till they leave this world. A real hard nisoyin. If it wouldn't be real, it wouldn't make them real Baal Bitachon. It's a deep nisoyin, a hardship, a deep hardship. That was the ness of their life. That gave them so much bracha. You could sometimes see people. You see people that they have a big nisoyin, and all around they didn't have to parnasa. They got away scot-free for some reason. Sometimes it's flip-flop. What I'm saying, they got away, and sometimes different areas in life that more than the regular, much more than the regular, but they have a very big nisoyin, and one is the reason for the other. That because that's when they became the Baalei Bitachon. So this is what we started off the shir with. The physical part is the hardest part. That's why people have to go through that part to be koine the bitachon. That's the tachlis. Now, the tachlis is not that a person should have an enjoyable life in all other areas. The tachlis is that he should be koine the bitachon, and that's why when he comes to Olam Haba, he was koine because he did it in the very, very tough matzovim, and that's when it became part of him. The whole inside was changed. Just happens to be that if a person does it the real way, then also in this world things work out. But that's why it's so important, just to finish off the shir, in all years of life, Hashem never let a person get away scot-free. If it's refuah, if it's parnosa, if it's nachas children, if it's shidduchim, anything, all real crazy stories that people have, and every time it's something so painful, but every time it's something that you never heard of. Because but what's so incredible is that these crazy stories never finish. It's very painful to talk about it, but every time it's like, wow, this I never heard of. It's not a schmack to talk about it, but you could sometimes see like clear like day the under bunch could do this, because there should have been like the same 5 nisyonis. It wouldn't be nisyim, because then it would be like, no, a person is caught by surprise, and a person doesn't know what's going to be next, and a person is shocked, and a person is guilty, feeling all kinds of little highways and whatever, and they have to like figure out all those parts and actually dig through. That's when a person becomes connected to the Torah, because it became part of him. And that's what the Torah wanted. Okay, I'm hearing good absurdas.
Understand what we